could have went straight to Tower 1 or made a left to go to Tower 2. We bump into another group of Port Authority cops from the PATH train, the Port Authority Trans Hudson, the train that brings everybody back and forth. And their command center is underneath the Trade Center. And I remember bumping into five of them. I wish I could remember the other four guys, but the one pushing the cart was one of our classmates, Warren Stewart. Warren was a young African American guy. He had 4 years in the NYPD. He was a superstar over there. He was a detective already. He was in narcotics, but he had a smile, man, that would light up a room. And during the academy, unfortunately, our academy is 6 months long because we have to be cops in both New Jersey and New York, so it's a lot of training. We had a lot of deaths during our academy, the 100th class. We were the centennial class. But I remember one of the highlights of our academy was Stewart and his wife gave birth to a little girl named Amanda. And he had this big smile and he would light up a room. And always, no matter how bad the situation was, he was always smiling. Here he is smiling again. Wow. And we're like, Stewie, what's up? He's like, yo, bro, this is bad. So we're kind of chit-chatting while the sergeant's talking. And then they're pulling away. And Sergeant McLaughlin said, let's go. So at that point, I just fist pumped Stewie. He had leather gloves on, the working gloves on. I said, be safe, bro. That would be the last time I saw Stewart, and the rest of those four cops, because they never ever found anything of them. And that was difficult. But we continued on, and that's when we met who you portrayed in the movie, Christopher Amoroso. Christopher had been recently transferred from the bus terminal where he worked with us. He was one of my OJT officers. He was a kid from North Bergen, tough guy. Like I always say, I'd go through a door with him. That's how much you trusted Chris with your life. And he came running up to us, and he had an injury under his left eye. And we're like, yo, Chris, you good? He's like, man, I'm good. Like, we got to get more people out of here. And he asked Sergeant McLaughlin, Sarge, can I join you guys? Being Sergeant McLaughlin knew him, said, yeah, let's go. So we became a team of 5. And we continued on toward Tower 2. Again, I'm never questioning my sergeant. I'm just following his lead wherever he's going. I'm pushing his cart. We get to the revolving doors. There was big revolving doors, glass doors that would allow you to get into the lobby of the tower. So the lobby of 2, I could see. There was a Ben and Jerry's ice cream shop there. We stopped right there, and Sergeant McLaughlin said, Jimeno, you stay here with this cart. The rest of you guys come down to another E-room downstairs where we're going to go see Jimmy Lynch and get more equipment. So they went down into this stairwell. And again, that fear came over me, man. I was like standing there because there was really nobody in the hallway that direction where we were. And there was just a lot of people in the lobby of 2. People had died. And as I look out, I could see cops on the other side, our cops and NYPD cops, shooting literally with their handguns the windows to let more people get out instead of doorways, to get out onto the West Side Highway. Excuse me, Liberty Street. They're actually facing Liberty Street.
Folks who had suffered from being up in the towers,
they were coming
dying.
Down.
But who are you?
There were people.
Who had jumped.
No, there were people just in the lobby who just were dead. I mean,
that had been brought down.
I think no, and I think sometimes I couldn't tell you they were just dead. I mean, people, when that plane hit, fire came there. People were dead. It was a bad scene. I remember just thinking, I said, this is crazy. And as I'm standing there, I'm watching the cops on the other side shoot out windows so more people can get out. I see people running on top, trying to get down. And then that's when it got worse for me personally, because as I'm looking out towards Liberty Street, I see people literally see concrete falling and hearing that thump. Then I would see actually people falling and hitting other people. And it was bad because you're thinking to yourself, what are those sounds? And I could see that because unfortunately people were jumping and landing on people. And that was really difficult. And again, I'm standing there like fearful as a human being. Then all of a sudden this African-American cop walks up to me. His name was Bruce Reynolds. He was one of our cops. He was short, bald. He had a sky pack on. He was sweating. He was assigned to the George Washington Bridge. That was a senior command. Like, you'd have to have like 15 plus years to get up to the bridge back then, those days. And the only reason I recognized him was growing up in Hackensack, New Jersey, which sits in Bergen County. We butt up Fort Lee, which is Bergen County, butts up to the George Washington Bridge, one of our commands. So the Bergen Record would report on the Port Authority cops who saved people that unfortunately try to jump from our bridge, because it's used, unfortunately, for people that end their lives. And I remember seeing him before I became a cop, like recognizing him in a photo with 2 other Port Authority cops who saved somebody from jumping. So that's the only way I knew him, because he was at the George Washington, I was at the bus terminal. He starts walking up to me, goes, "What's up, Reynolds, GWB, George Washington Bridge?" I said, "Jimeno, BT, bus terminal." And we chit chat a little bit, and he says, "You know what, kid? It's gonna be a long day, but we're gonna get people home." And I needed that as a young cop.
Yeah.
Even though I was older and been in the military, I was still a rookie. And to hear a person who later I found out shouldn't have been in the building because he had lung conditions from an incident before, that's the kind of American who was there that day. And I always laugh because Bruce was married to an Irish woman. We think he wanted to be an Irish guy because he lived out on the west side of New Jersey where it's all like rednecks.
Yeah.
They loved him out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just a great guy. This guy could gel with anybody. He was a big gardener, but just a good cop. We talked for a little bit, and he kind of gave me that encouragement I needed. And that's when the team started coming back up. When they started coming back, he's like, "All right, be safe," and he started walking away. And he was going to the command center of 2. Where I could see firefighters and everything like that. That'd be the last time I saw Bruce. He actually died on the initial collapse. They ended up finding him, I believe, the following February, where I told them I saw him last. And that's where there was a group of firefighters, Bruce and some other people, and that's where they found his body the following February. But again, to me, 23 years later, it's a sad thing, but it's also showing me what good human beings, good Americans are willing to do. He went into that building knowing he had a lung condition, but he's like, "I'm going in there to help people." And, those are the stories we have to tell our young generation about these brave people. And what's nice about it for me is we're multicultural. It's not we're blue.
It's beautiful.
There's people who are African American, Hispanic, Italian. So that's why I tell people, don't get caught up in all that crazy stuff that people want to push that agenda. Look at people for who they are and what they are. And at that moment, Antonio Rodriguez says to me, "Will, let's switch spots," which becomes something critical because I said, "No, I'm okay." He's like, "No, you've been pushing from the police desk all the way here." Now you got to imagine our adrenaline's running. We have all this gear on. We're sweating. And he says a point to me, he goes, "You're not going to be any good if we get to wherever we're going and you're tired. Let me push the car now." So in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, man, teamwork, right? So I switch. So now we're going to head back down the hallway and make a left to go to Tower 1 with Tower 2 behind us. So Antonio gets behind the cart. Christopher Amoroso gets to the left of Antonio. Sergeant McLaughlin is at the 11 o'clock position. I'm directly in front of the cart, and Dominic is at the 1, 2 o'clock position. We start going down this hallway, and we happen to stop and talk to some firefighters and an EMT, I remember. We happen to stop with a doorway to our right. Now, I didn't know those buildings like John McLaughlin did. He had helped set up the security after the 93 bombing. I had been there for like 2 or 3 protests, but outside. So I don't know the buildings. And it's imperative, like anything, like if you're a police officer, you know where you work. You should know every nook and cranny where you're working because it's going to help you get somewhere faster, get you out of a situation. I didn't know the buildings. All I knew was follow Sergeant McLaughlin. So we stopped, and he's talking to these firefighters, and he kind of tells them, "Hey, man, we just came up from the B1 level. Elevator shafts are buckling." So we know that if a foundation is buckling, something's bad. But nobody ever thought, none of the extras that were standing under those towers thought these things are coming down. So the firefighter, EMT start walking away. Sergeant McLaughlin gets a radio call from the inspector, "Where are you guys?" So he starts telling them. And Sergeant McLaughlin says, "There's something wrong with Tower 2." Because, again, we don't know that Tower 2 is hit. But we're seeing people run out of there, so we really don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden we hear boom. So I turn around and I look back from where we're walking through the lobby, the glass doors and lobby of 2, and I just see, bro, a humongous fireball the size of my house. And I'm not exaggerating. Everything was moving like out of a bad movie, like an earthquake movie. I grab my helmet and everything's shaking. And I'm standing there. Again, follow somebody that knows what they're doing. At that moment, Sergeant McLaughlin said, run toward that elevator. There's a freight elevator all right in the doorway. If we were caught anywhere else, there was nowhere to run. You're just in this hallway. So Dominic starts running. I start running behind Dominic, and I look over my left shoulder. I can see Sergeant McLaughlin coming behind me. We hit that hallway, and I remember thinking to myself, man, Will, what'd you get yourself into? Because at that moment, I saw stuff start flickering. The lights were flickering. I saw brown stuff, which today, what I know is as the building's coming down, it's pushing debris toward us. And I remember for a split second, which is so weird, I thought I saw light in front of me. Now, mind you, we're between the 2 towers. I thought I saw light, and I thought to myself, save yourself, run that way. And then I thought about, we promised each other we wouldn't leave each other. And I see Dominic turning to the left. So I start following Dominic. That's when